Good morning. Oh, darn it. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Here I am doing a Facebook Live. It's our Wednesday morning Hump Day Happy Chat. And we're coming to you live from the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self-Mastery. You are noticing that I have guests here today. Yay for guests. Yay for guests. We're very excited about what we have to talk about today. It's a very important topic, and we're glad that you're here with us. And I'm noticing I'm live in a different place than I thought I was. That's because I often have fun clicking buttons. So here we are. Instead of being in the Bliss Collective, my private group here on Facebook, we're going to be live on my profile, which is great because we can always share it in the Bliss Collective later. So thank you very much for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Again, I'm Valerie Shepard, founder and CEO of the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self-Mastery, where we teach people how to master themselves in their lives so that they can exquisitely manage whatever their lives bring their way, whatever their lives bring their way. And interestingly enough, if you're two-legged like me, your life probably is bringing a lot of things your way. And some of it, maybe all of it, maybe on any given day, all of it ain't the best of everything. It's not what you really asked for. It's not what you really want. So self-mastery is how you manage your way through it. And you still come out on the other side feeling blessed. Hashtag count your blessings 2021. Count your blessings. There's a blessing in every circumstance. All we have to do is be open to receiving it. First, noticing it. Same message, same message. So, if you're watching the replay, please do hashtag replay, put in your comments. I'll be looking down some, looking at my phone, trying to keep track of who's out there and if there are comments coming in, and we'll do our best to answer your comments. And if you're interested in dancing in the space of how do I create more peace, more love, more joy, more freedom, more bliss in my life, I invite you to come over and play with me in the Bliss Collective. So it's facebook.com/groups with an S /the Bliss Collective. It's a free group. We practice the teachings of living a high vibration life. Why? Because when we're high vibration in here, out there has to show up that way. And that's what we're in the practice of creating. So come on over and play with us. All right, enough of that stuff. We're here today to talk to two very special people, Charmaine Hammond and Michael Mankowski, about a beautiful, beautiful evolution from something that was sort of horrific to what is now evolving into this beautiful space of back home again, which is this space where we occupy the brilliance and magnificence that we always were. And it's a double entendre, and I'll let them tell you more about that. But I'm going to let you in on this thing. Like sometimes our lives are creating opportunities for us to increase our capacity for resilience. So how does it do that, right? How does it do that? Our lives don't necessarily just say, ding, you're more resilient now. It's not how it works. It would be nice, but in fact, the real growth happens when we are accept the causal nature of who we are and create that evolution of ourselves, in ourselves, from ourselves, to ourselves, for us, by us. And so I'm talking about resilience, the idea of being in the midst of something that feels chaotic or horrific or shouldn't be happening to me or unfair or debilitating or any number of negatives that you could bring to it. And they're real, right? The negatives are real. We're not saying that's just your mind. No, there are horrific things. Absolutely. And is my life going to have a bigger capacity for resilience because someone just gives that to me? Or does the capacity for resilience get grown inside me by me and by how I go through the horror? Yeah. I don't believe that it's you have to have the bad in order to know that you have it good. That's not what I'm saying. And I don't really believe that. That's one of those things I noodle around a lot. And it'll be interesting to hear Charmaine and Michael talk about that and what they've found in the experience of the creation of this magnificence that they've been working on and launched. But so resilience, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. Some people talk about it as grit. You know, when I work on college campuses, that's the word, toughness, often remarkable nature of people to bounce back is what I heard when I was growing up. Bounce forward is what's been told, or the way it's been evolved lately. All right, so enough of me. Let's get into this with Michael and Charmaine. So I'm going to introduce Charmaine and Michael right now. Charmaine and I have been friends for over 10 years. She's a certified speaking professional. She is phenomenal on stage and off stage. An international award-winning best-selling author, highly sought after business keynoter. She does so many different things across the spectrum, but they all come under, for me, what I call an expansive heart, and how she helps other people get into their expansive heart. This woman is a kindness guru. I've visited her in my home state of California when she and her team were here on their kindness tour and spending time with her puppy dog, Toby, and her husband. Like, there is some brilliance here. And Charmaine has been working with Michael Mankowski, who is a screenwriter, producer, and has been bringing this idea and this story to life about Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, Alberta, Canada. And the story there from Western Canada of a wildfire. And Michael, and Michael and Charmaine, I'm so grateful to have you here. And so I want to say welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
It's great to have you here. How about if you maybe start off by just telling us a little bit about the movie, Back Home Again.
Wonderful. I'll let Michael do that. I love listening to him share this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Back Home Again is an animated short film, and it's based on my experience of being evacuated in the wildfire. I had the opportunity to work with the Red Cross during the reentry period, as well as the 1 year and 2 year anniversary. And during that time, I really wanted to create a film that could be used as a conversation starter for mental health. So, and we used animation to soften those stories and ultimately try and make something that retells that experience, but it's not a disaster film. The difference of this is I wanted to make something that focuses more on coming back home again and rebuilding. Every year I would watch fire footage, and I was also part of that, of filming all that. And I just thought it would be nice to, instead of focusing on the fire, focus on what it is to rebuild and where is the community today.
Now, Michael, your fire's not your business. No. And so what was this impetus of getting into storytelling and using this as a catapult for some pretty heavy topics that are being used in a powerful way? When you layer the dynamics of this horrific fire, Alberta is what, 4.5 million total. And how big is Fort McMurray?
It's about, at the time, it was 88,000 people.
Yeah.
Were evacuated. They say it's probably closer to 90 to 100 because there's a lot of transient workers that fly in, fly out of the community. But the core people, yeah, exactly, kind of surrounding communities outside around Fort McMurray, an hour or 2 hours here. But the core in the city, it was about 88,000 people that were evacuated that day.
How many have returned?
A lot less. I would assume like 60,000. It really, yeah. And, you mentioned fire is not my business. And ultimately, the fire turned my life upside down. I was working on a feature film, my first big feature film, getting ready to make that. I was, on the land with the animals and getting ready to film. And that was taken away from me. And my business was extremely affected by the wildfire. And my life was turned upside down. And ultimately, this opportunity to work with the Red Cross turned out to be the best thing ever for me, and changed my life. And through that, I ended up deciding to go study animation. And I met Charmaine, and we started working on this project. And 5 years later, we assembled a team that were able to help us execute this. And yeah, it's been a wonderful journey.
And I love hearing this story now because there's some metaphors here. The wildfire that has been COVID in many people's lives, the mental health trauma that a lot of people are living through as a result of the way their lives have been turned upside down, and also the magnificence that has come for many people who have done what you've done. It's like, because of the dynamic, I see an opportunity for something I never would have gone after before. I wasn't on that path, and now you're skilled at animation, and you're doing creativity and creation and expression and communication and education and a whole bunch of things that maybe were a part of what you were seeing for yourself, but that you are bringing to life differently. And to me, that's at the heart of resilience. It doesn't mean I just go back to doing what I was doing again. A lot of people do believe that. I don't. Resilience to me is coming back to myself, right? That's the title. Coming back to my heart, coming back to the truth of who I am, coming back to my magnificence, my brilliance, and then listening for what's wanting me to be expressing, what's wanting to come through me. And maybe it is what I was doing. Maybe it's what I was doing and I do it differently. Maybe it's something completely different. And being open to what that is and how it comes to pass is phenomenal. And Charmaine, like, how did the two of you come together? Did you know each other before the project?
No, funny story. I had actually known Michael's mom forever when I first did some work at the school division that she was working with. So I had known Michael's mom for years, didn't know Michael. And so a friend of mine, I was up in Fort McMurray doing some work. I was called back after the fires because I did live in Fort McMurray for 15 years. I had moved away long before the fires, but part of the recovery and resilience process, I was brought back by the school divisions and some nonprofits in the community to do some resilience work, some training, some speaking on that topic, facilitation. And a couple of people said, you've got to meet this Michael Mankowski guy. He's got this screenplay he's working on. You're an author. You'll love it. Like, I don't know what could happen, but you just need to meet. So Michael and I went for a quick bite to eat it. I remember that vividly at Earl's, and 15 minutes into the conversation, it was like, I don't know what you're working on, Michael, but heck yes, I'm in. It checked all the boxes for me. It checked collaboration because Michael's spirit is much like mine around collaboration. It checked the box of mental health and resilience, which is important to me. And most importantly, it checked that box of making a difference and making an impact by including people. And so we've been working closely for 5 years. I've learned when you talk about this wasn't your path, being involved in a movie, I don't think was ever in my path. And so it's been an incredible and humbling experience of learning. I've got to say I've learned so much from Michael and this project in 5 years, and just so proud of it.
It's so exciting. I love the story, and I love the serendipity of things just coming together. And when we're awake and aware and willing and to receive, some beautiful things are given to us. Some beautiful things just pop right in. And it's wonderful to be able to receive them and to then turn magic, create magic as a result. So I'd love to know more about the whole idea of taking this from the horrific nature into this very loving, thoughtful, caring place that you did with animation. So maybe let's talk a little bit about why that decision was made and how that's been going. What's happened?
Yeah, it started with just, as I mentioned, I was trying to make my kind of first big feature film, and I was struggling through that. And because I was lost that opportunity, and then I'm working with the Red Cross, and I'm feeling a lot of selfish feelings of like, how can this happen to me? My business is affected. I'm a good person. Now I lost my movie. And I was really struggling. And during that time, as I'm filming, hundreds of testimonials of people affected by wildfires, I did start to heal. I did feel at least that, like, okay, my problems are not as big when you're talking to a family and a child's talking about all the toys he lost, everything in his bedroom, or you're talking to a teacher, she's talking about gutting a classroom, or you're talking to an Indigenous person and he's telling you his way of life is gone because the animals, even if we rebuild this cabin, the animals are coming back. So through these stories, I really just started healing and being like, okay, I guess my problems are not as big as all these other people I'm talking to every day. And it was just that simple idea of like, okay, I'm healing. I think I could make, something for my community. And ultimately, I was doing all these documentary work, and I didn't feel my community was properly represented. I'm filming a lot of this stuff, but I don't have the opportunity to edit it when it goes to national news. And I didn't feel that it was the right, I just felt that I wasn't happy with the way some of these stories are done, because you film so many of these stories and they choose which ones to highlight, right? So through that, I really wanted to make something that better represented our community. And I thought animation was a great way to soften these stories.
I think that idea of softening the story is a very fine line.
Yes.
It's a very fine line. And I think it's beautiful to be in that consideration set with, because, if the story's too hard, people don't watch it. They can't bring themselves to experience what is being shared. And so you totally miss the opportunity to either help them heal or to show them what's happening with others. And so as a storyteller, it's a very important nuance to be concerned about. And then you're dealing with an issue that to this day is very misunderstood. Mental health to this day, I think we're doing better. And so hallelujah for that. We're getting much better at how we deal with emotional trauma and ongoing mental health. And there is a lot of upside potential. And so to be a contributor to that, I heard you say in one of the interviews that I watched, break down barriers and give people comfort. And that nuance of, are we doing a little too much of a brush over? Did you ever be concerned about that? That, like, I know that you really wanted to be able to have kids benefit from the film. And did you ever be concerned that, it's too light?
Oh man, so that was one of the biggest concerns. I love this question because ultimately, when you mention the fine line, it's like, it really is that fine, because if you choose to go too soft, I feel like the story isn't impactful, and it doesn't do it justice to the community and the people that went through the experience. So I really try to still not, I say it's for families, because I didn't try and soften it too much where it doesn't I want to emotionally affect you. I want you to feel what the mom went through when she watched, lost her everything in her cave. I want you to feel what it's like to be separated for 2 months and have no idea if your home is standing, and then what it's like to come back to that and then have your community rebuild together. So I definitely want to move you, because I do believe if you don't, get that emotional reaction, we failed. So, but I also don't want to scare the kids, right? So it's like, we're trying to find that balance. And honestly, Charmaine was a huge piece of that. And, we worked with the Canadian Mental Health, and we had, over 30 plus mental health, experts review this, everything from color theory to character design to, the script to the name of the movie. Everything was just double checked by, countless professionals, whether it was doctors or play therapists or teachers. We had all the school boards in my community, go over the script. And so Charmaine was a huge piece of that.
Thank you for that care and meticulousness around the nature of the underpinnings of the story. It's so important. And what I know that you shared with me how spiritual you are. And I know that, what we're talking about is, are we going to do kind of like what people call a spiritual bypass, where we just make everything all hunky dory and we don't actually feel our pain. And a lot of people, as a self-mastery advisor and coach with people, many people are afraid to even talk about their past because it brings up the pain. And to actually be skilled as an individual, not me as a coach, but each of us, like taking responsibility for increasing our skill set. That's what self-mastery is, increasing our skill set around navigating our own pain, navigating our own trauma, navigating our own healing. Like this is giving an opportunity for that to happen. And I think that's under a resilience heading, that's very powerful. That's where it comes from. And it doesn't mean you do it all by yourself, right? So for some people, having this film is a catalyst for them to do some of their own dance with the trauma. So they're not necessarily doing it by themselves, and we're not sending that signal. When we need help, we need to ask for it. We need to be strong enough to say, I'm not doing so well with this. I need help. I mean, Olympic athletes have coaches.
Yeah.
Professional
Totally.
hockey players have coaches, right? It makes sense that we ask for help, and it doesn't have to be a coach. It can be a friend. It can be the YMCA. It can be, I don't know whether they have those in Canada, but it can be so many resources where people can go get their resilience on and not feel like they have to do it all by themselves. And one of the other things I would love for either one of you to answer this, you talk about untold stories. And I believe that every single person on the planet is more untold story than told story. And we're all walking around with more kind of maybe bottled up, maybe not, but maybe bottled up and stuffed down and told not to ever speak again inside of us than actually what we're living on the outside. And this disruption that can happen, that can blow it all up, can be a natural happening. We can actually look for, how do I disrupt myself enough to keep evolving myself to a higher vibration and a better life? And I wonder, I'd love for both of you to speak to how this film is sort of giving an opportunity for people to, even if you weren't in this wildfire or a wildfire or something as catastrophic, how this can give you some a little bit of a nudge, maybe not a 2x4, but a little bit of a nudge to kind of look for places where your untold story needs to be a little polished up and healed so that you can move on and move up. What do you think?
I love that. I love that question, Valerie. And when you were asking the question, I just got this wave of goosebumps because it brought me back to a conversation I had with a 9-year-old at the Edmonton International Film Festival just a couple of weeks ago when we launched the movie. It was the world premiere in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And this 9-year-old came up to me after, and she was so excited to meet Michael. She's kind of standing in a line and we're chatting as she's waiting. And she said, this movie is perfect for, age group 7 and up. And she said, I'm going to go and talk to all of my friends about, how would you feel if you were Mrs. Bear? What do you think Michael J. Bird was feeling when he said such and such? And she was giving me all these points of the movie where she wanted to go start conversations with people in her life. And I said, tell me more about that. And she said, it just makes it safe for us to talk about Mrs. Bear, but maybe I'm really talking about myself. And even now I'm getting emotional thinking about it, because I thought, this is a 9-year-old. She's just summed up in those few precious moments why this movie can help people start conversations, because they can talk about it through this story and then bring their own story into it more safely. So I wanted to add that piece to that. And, so the other reason why we're working with Canadian Mental Health Association to create resources, educational tools, screening guides for schools, and a family discussion guide, because we heard from so many people over the last 5 years, I want to talk about mental health and resilience. I want to talk about what our family went through, whether it was a parent losing a job or a forest fire or the loss of a family member, whatever that crisis was for them. But I don't know how to get the conversation started. So we're providing tools to help people start conversation. And I know that for Michael, he can add his perspective on this, but that 9-year-old really put it in perspective for me that day.
Yeah, and I think it's beautiful. And the whole idea here that like, how do we get in? Like, what's the way in? Like, people often say they don't want to, if somebody's depressed, they don't want to bring up the word suicide because they're afraid they'll be putting it on their plate and giving them this option that they may not have considered. But the actual data says, whether they've told you about it or not, many people who are depressed have considered it. They may not have come up with a plan, but people have considered it. I mean, I've thought about, and I don't think I've ever been clinically depressed, but I don't know why I did that, but clinically depressed, a diagnosis of depression, which is a serious thing. I don't think I've ever been there, but I've been some down in the dumps places where I certainly wondered what the heck I'm here for. And like, really, like I've done that. I talk about it in my book, not feeling like my life was really my life. And so bringing up the negative, bringing up the horror doesn't necessarily create a situation where someone goes further into suicidal ideation. What it does, there are two things that I like that I think you mentioned, Charmaine. One is it lets me know I'm not alone. So somebody else out there can resonate with what I'm going through. And there's a safe space maybe for me to like talk, like to share, like to go, oh, thank you for saying that because I'm really feeling like crap right now. And here's what I'm afraid of. And like to open up. So that way in to see that thing and how, two hearts coming together, even in the midst of horror, is a very powerful place where love and kindness can blossom. And that's beautiful. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, everything you said resonates with me. I definitely, there's times in my life I've been extremely down and had thoughts of, very dark thoughts of, especially as an artist, like it's not worth living or you got to end it all. And like, when my movie was taken away and, business affected, there was a lot of times when, or like even writing screenplays and it's like, you're trying to sell these things and nothing's working. I've had so many different times in my life of like questioning my journey and, what I'm here to do. But I do think the one thing I learned through this experience is it's okay to not be okay. And I do think about talking about this in like a public forum, like just as you said, like it gives someone else the opportunity to realize that it's okay not to be okay. It gives someone else to be inspired to maybe make their own story. Everyone has stories. And I think just because of COVID now, we all understand mental health better. And we're all okay, I think, for the first time to talk about it publicly. So I think it's a great time to realize, like, I healed by living in this. For 5 years, I watched this stuff. I listened to stories. I did not go away from the thing that scared me the most. I just pushed myself deeper and deeper in it. And through that, somehow, actually, I feel like I healed, actually. It was just so, I think there's a lot of different approaches. And, but I do think it's okay not to be okay. And I think sometimes if you can realize that this is only temporary and you can change this, it's a lot of mindset, you can get out of this and things will get better. And I know that's just like, someone might say that's flaky, but I do truly believe that, it will get better, so if you can just push through that and maybe find an outlet, whether it's art or, music or whatever you're into, maybe it's just math, I don't know, but if you can find your little outlet, sometimes I think you can take that dark energy and you can turn it into something positive.
I totally agree. I think it's very powerful to be able to transmute our own low vibration energy and to rise up. Yes, and still I rise, as Maya Angelou would say, and still I rise. I'm seeing a couple of comments. Hi, Yancy. Yancy unequivocally is here. Get Your Resilience On. Yes, thank you, Yancey. What film? It's okay that you got here late. The film is Back Home Again. And we're talking to producer, director, writer, Michael Mankowski, and project partner, Charmaine Hammond, all about it. Thanks for being here, Yancey. Thanks for being here, Rachel. So we're going to start wrapping up here. And I just want to say, sometimes people see situational dynamics and they're like, oh, that's about them. I don't, what does that have to do with me? And I think we've been talking about the scope of how looking at something happening over there. And, we're very capable now of seeing the minutest little camera lens, checking out something halfway across the planet. And I think there's some benefits and some negatives that have to do with that. One thing that I like about it is we do get this sense of the oneness of the global community. And I'm wondering how things are happening or how things have been unfolding, because the actual fire took place, as you said, you've been in this for 5 years. The actual fire took place in 2016, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's been the, gathering of the stories and helping people reclaim their homes and their lives. And I would love to know what's going on with the natural habitat and all of that. So can you kind of bridge us into like, where are things now? The film is launched and you said about 60 some odd thousand people have moved home, have come back home again, have returned home. And give us a little bit about what's happening there. And then also, could you bridge to, how does this become a way home for me? I'm in Southern California. I mean, we do have wildfires here, and there have been wildfires all over the world recently. And so if you could do a little bit of that, that'd be great, Michael and Charmaine.
You bet. I think Fort McMurray is a community that's still hurting today, 5 years after the wildfire. I filmed the 1 year, 2 year anniversary and was there throughout, that period. And this is a community that was, before the wildfire was affected by the economy, and it was affected by the wildfire, then the floods, and then COVID. So it's a community that's struggling today. And even on the 5 year anniversary, I know there's a lot of people that still haven't moved into their homes or rebuilt, and a lot of emotion around that time. So it's a hard situation. And ultimately, that's why I wanted to create this, is to have that conversation around mental health. And I do think, it's a local story, but it has a global a global message. Like you mentioned, how does it help someone in California? And just as you said, our cast was affected. We have some incredible actors that majority of them are from California or live in California. And Kim Basinger, she lost her home in the wildfire, and Martin Short was evacuated the day in Malibu, and we recorded with him the day. He drove everything down in his car to the studio. And so, all the animators are from Argentina, and this is an area affected by wildfires. So everyone is kind of either affected or one person removed from someone affected by wildfires. So I do think that and it doesn't have to be wildfires. I think if it's anyone who's gone through any disaster or flood or just mental health situation, I really believe that these stories can help, because it's all about talking about, how you're feeling. And that's what I hope to inspire, is just, it's okay not to be okay. And it's positive to talk about it, reach out to anyone. It can, David Growler, I'll quote him. I always do this. He's the executive director of Alberta Canada, and he always says, some of the best mental health conversations happen over the kitchen table, or a cup of coffee. So I think if we can inspire someone else to realize that or to create something else, then I think this is a win.
Absolutely. And I just want to, when I think about not being okay, I always try to think about it in terms of the truth of perfection, like the divinity of us. There's no not okay in the real truth of who we are. Like in the divinity of us, there's only perfection. And I don't mean that in a Pollyanna way. I mean that in a, like, boots on the ground, here's who we really are. And so these periods where that's the last thing I can connect to, like, where all I can feel is hurt and anger and upset or fear, like fear is a big one, like fear of the future, fear of the past coming back to bite me in the butt again, you know, like all of that stuff. Like when we can really, 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 and I say that really, 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 really get that these things are kind of a part of life, and that inside these things is brilliance, is the opportunity for perhaps the most magnificent experiences of our lives. And so in your statement, it's okay to not be okay. I would love to speak to everyone and have them hear inside what Michael's been saying. It's even bigger than it's okay to not be okay. Like if you mine your moments of it's not okay, you might find the diamond that will catapult your life to the next level. So it's not just it's okay to, it's really, wow, I'm not okay right now. I wonder what's in this for me, and how do I get there? Who can I talk with? Who can I dance with? Who can I play with? How do I meditate? How do I scream this out of me? When I was going through some really tough times, I would go to the beach, Newport Beach, and I would run along the beach really early in the morning when people weren't there, so that I wouldn't scare the crap out of anyone or get committed. And I would just scream, like, why is this happening to me? Like, why did you, I would scream at something, and I would stop, stop, stop. I want this to stop. And I might start crying. And then I'd throw myself down on the sand, which is tough for a little princess like me, getting sand on your hands. So I was like, ah! And then I would walk back to my car, kind of look around, look up, take a deep breath, and life was on. Life continued. And I think this whole idea of making it okay to doubt, making it okay to not feel strong enough, to make it okay to have no clue how you're going to do something. Like, it's got to be okay. That's just a moment. It doesn't mean that's who we are and what we're made of. And I really appreciate you bringing that message in and reiterating it, and creating this this beautiful project as a way to remind people of how magnificent the disruptions and debilitating aspects of our lives can be. So any parting comments? How can people get involved and share the film? Are you looking for schools to be able to disseminate it? What do you need? What can we, I've posted the links to the trailers that I had. I've posted those. And
Amazing.
Tell people how they can be a part of the magnificence that this film is bringing into the planet.
One thing I'll say before I pass it to Michael is we would love people to watch the trailer, because therein starts the conversation. So watching the trailer, sharing the trailer, it's important for us to be able to introduce Back Home Again movie to as many people as we can. And I love your question, Valerie, about schools. Yes, yes, yes. We would love to connect with schools. It's also a great movie for workplaces to have a lunch and learn, or like a conversation, because we know that if moms and dads watch the movie in their workplace and have a conversation about resilience in the workplace, moms and dads then take that conversation home and talk about it at dinner. Likewise, when students see the movie at school, they go home and tell family about it, and therein begins that conversation around the dinner table.
Love
and people
it.
can just get in touch with me if they're interested in a screening or getting this movie out to their schools. I'd love to connect with them.
Awesome sauce. Let's do it, people. Any parting words, Michael?
Well, you mentioned something about perfection. I can't remember, but I always draw in my journal every morning before while I sip coffee. And I wrote this morning just as I was doodling, because I always do like doodles with words. And one of the things I wrote, don't worry about perfection because you'll never achieve it. And I don't know, when you're talking, it just kind of resonated with me. You don't have to always worry about making sure whatever you're working on is perfect. Sometimes it's better just to get it out in the world, and Yeah, and I just really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast today and talk about this project, because this is what it's about. It's really about just having a conversation. And if we can help anyone out there or inspire someone else to create something that, makes a positive impact in the world, that's the mission of what we're trying to do here. So I really appreciate the opportunity today.
Thank you both for being here. This has been a pleasure to talk about this. I love the conversation around resilience, and I love to be able to show in real terms, what it can look like to go from devastation to something different, and the ways in which we can come together to help create that with other people. And I just want to make one last comment that sometimes when we talk about the things that we've gone through, so I'm just looking at some of the comments and some of the things that we've all talked about in terms of the dark side of our lives, or I'm going to say the less light. I'm not going to say dark, the less light side of our lives. It can sometimes sound like a suffering Olympics. And I just want to say to people, that's not what this is about. People, when they used to hear me talk about the stroke, they would say, oh gosh, you had a stroke. Well, my problems are not as bad as that. And I just want to say, no, that is not what this is about. It is not about an Olympics of whose problems are worse. It's about whatever you're going through. If it's tough and you're suffering, that's your suffering. And how can I help you? It's not that my suffering is worth, there's no comparison here. So whatever you're dealing with that is feeling difficult, that has your mental capacities at their edges, like you just are at your wit's end, do whatever's necessary to breathe new life. That's the resilience. Breathe new life into your courage, into your trust, into your faith, into your strength, whatever it takes. So that's today's Hump Day Happy Chat. Again, I'm Valerie Shepard, coming to you live from the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self-Mastery in Southern California, United States. And I always close the Hump Day Happy Chat with the Karanaya Metta Sutra, the prayer of loving kindness from the Buddha. And it goes like this. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings awaken, wake up to the light of their true nature. It's not your brain. You're more than that. Awaken to the light of their true nature, and may all beings be free. Thank you for joining today's Hump Day Happy Chat. See you next time. Till then, stay well and choose happy. Choose it. Bye now.